Vincent Kint's wedding was supposed to be the cleanest thing he'd ever done, until two 8-year-olds crashed it with loaded accusations and shaking hands. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here, you've just walked into something wild. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Are you team run from danger or team face it head on? And if you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor and smash that button because this story, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. Now, let's get into it. The chapel doors exploded open. Not with a crash, not with a polite knock. They slammed back on their hinges hard enough to crack marble, and every head in the room whipped toward the sound. Vincent Kint stood frozen at the altar, his hand halfway to his bride's veil, his pulse doing something it hadn't done in 20 years. Stuttering. Two little girls walked down the aisle. Navy dress, red dress, identical faces, pale as ghosts, arms extended, and in each small hand, a gun. Not toys, not props, real steel, loaded. The room sucked in its breath and held it. 300 guests, senators, judges, crime lords in tailored wool, socialites dripping diamonds, turned to stone. Vincent's bodyguards shifted, hands sliding toward concealed weapons, but he raised one finger. Wait. The girl in navy spoke first. Her voice didn't shake. It should have. She was 8 years old, maybe 90 pounds soaking wet, standing in a room full of killers. But her words cut through the silence like a blade through silk. "My name is Leah Vega," she said. "This is my sister Ava. We know what happened the night our mama disappeared." The name hit the room like a grenade. Vega. Sofia Vega. The accountant. The ghost. The woman who'd vanished 18 months ago, right before she was set to testify about something so ugly, so buried, that even mentioning it in certain circles got you killed. Federal prosecutors called it suicide. The Romano family, Vincent's allies, called it tragic. The streets called it a hit. And now her daughters were here. At his wedding, with guns. And the truth. Vincent's bride, Senator Duca's daughter, a woman whose last name opened doors and closed investigations, took a step back. Her heel caught on her gown. She stumbled. One of the bridesmaids caught her, but the damage was done. She looked at Vincent like she didn't know him. Maybe she didn't. Eva, the girl in red, stepped forward. Smaller than her sister. Quieter. But her gun hand was steady as a surgeon's. "You don't remember us," she whispered, "but Mama showed us pictures. She said you were dangerous. She said you were the reason she had to hide." Vincent's jaw tightened. His mind spun through 1,000 calculations, exit routes, threat assessments, damage control. But all he could see were those two faces, those eyes, Sofia's eyes. "She recorded everything," Leah continued. Her voice rose now, carrying to the back pews where men in black suits were already reaching for phones, already texting orders to people who made problems disappear. Audio files, ledgers, video. She hid it all before she died. And we found it. A murmur rippled through the guests. Phones lit up like fireflies in the dim chapel light. This was going to be everywhere in 10 minutes, viral in 20. A disaster in 30. Vincent should have been thinking about containment, about spin, about which of his people could grab those girls before they said another word. Instead, he was staring at their dresses, at the way the seams bulged slightly, at the cheap plastic bracelets on their wrists, the kind you'd get from a dollar store, except these looked wrong. Too thick, too stiff. Storage devices. She'd hidden everything in plain sight. On her daughters. "Who sent you?" Vincent asked. His voice was calm, controlled, the voice of a man who'd negotiated peace treaties with enemies and executions with friends. "Who put you up to this?" "Nobody," Eva said. A tear slipped down her cheek, but her aim didn't waver. "We came because Mama's last video. She said if anything happened to her, we should find you. She said you were the only one who could keep us safe. The floor dropped out from under Vincent's world. She said you were our father. Want to know what happens when a mafia boss has to choose between his empire and two daughters he never knew existed? Drop a comment with your theory. Does Vincent protect them or silence them? And don't forget to subscribe, because this story is about to get messy. The silence that followed those 4 words, "Our Father," lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the room detonated. Phones erupted. Chairs scraped. A woman in the 3rd row fainted. Vincent's best man, Dominic Lonigan, a fixer who'd buried more bodies than a cemetery groundskeeper, grabbed Vincent's elbow. "We need to move, now!" But Vincent didn't move. He stared at those 2 little girls, their arms beginning to shake from holding the guns extended, their faces identical masks of terror and determination. And for the first time in 30 years, Vincent Kint felt something he'd spent 3 decades burning out of himself. Fear. Not the kind that came with bullets or indictments, the kind that came with responsibility, with truth, with consequences that couldn't be buried in the Jersey Pine Barrens. "Lower the guns," Vincent said quietly. "Please." Leah's chin lifted. "You lower yours first." Smart kid. Vincent's jacket concealed a Glock 19, custom grip, 17 rounds. She couldn't possibly know that. Except Sophia would have told her Sophia, who'd been forensic with details, who'd counted every dollar, tracked every transaction, noticed every tell. Sophia, who'd looked at him 18 months ago across a coffee shop table and said, "I'm pregnant, Vincent. Twins. And I'm going to testify against everyone, including you, unless you help me disappear." He'd said no. He'd had to. He was 3 days away from a federal indictment, 2 hours from a Romano family meeting where his loyalty would be questioned. He'd told her he couldn't help her, couldn't protect her, couldn't be what she needed. The next week, she was dead. Officially, suicide by drowning, East River. No body recovered. Unofficially, every criminal and corrupt official in New York breathed easier. Vincent had told himself it wasn't his fault. He'd convinced himself she'd been lying about the pregnancy, playing him for protection. He'd buried the guilt under a mountain of work, expanding territory, laundering money through Senator Duca's real estate deals, building the kind of power that made you untouchable. And now her daughters were here, pointing guns at his heart, claiming he was their father. The math tracked, the timing fit. Those eyes, brown with gold flecks, sharp and calculating, were Sophia's eyes. But they were also his mother's eyes, his sister's eyes, the Kint family legacy, staring him down in miniature. Vincent. His bride, Isabel Duca, found her voice. It came out thin, reedy, nothing like the confident congressional testimony voice she used on C-SPAN. "What is this? Who are these children?" Vincent didn't answer her. Couldn't. His entire world was rewriting itself in real time, and he was 30 seconds away from either the biggest mistake of his life or the only decent thing he'd ever done. He slowly removed his jacket, let it fall to the marble floor, raised his hands. "I'm unarmed," he lied. The ankle holster didn't count. "You can lower your weapons." Eva's gun dipped first. She was crying now, tears streaming down her cheeks, her whole body trembling. "Mama said you'd protect us. She said even if you were bad, you'd never hurt us." Leah held firm. She also said powerful men lie, that they make promises and break them. Her voice cracked. "Did you love her?" The question gutted him. Truth was, Vincent didn't know. He'd liked Sophia, respected her brilliance, enjoyed her company. But love? He'd spent so long becoming the kind of man who didn't love anything except power, that he genuinely couldn't remember if what he'd felt for her was real or just another transaction. "I cared about her," Vincent said carefully, "more than I've cared about anyone in a long time." "That's not an answer," Leah shot back. This kid was going to be trouble. He could already tell. Behind him, Isabel was whispering frantically to her father. Senator Richard Duca, a man whose political career depended on being photographed shaking hands with reformed criminals, not actual ones. The senator's face had gone purple. His security detail was moving toward the girls, hands hovering near holsters. "Tell them to stand down," Vincent said without turning around. His voice carried the weight of 30 years giving orders that were obeyed, or else nobody touches these children. "Are you insane?" Isabel hissed. "This is a disaster. My father's entire campaign." "I don't care about your father's campaign." The words came out before Vincent could stop them, before he could calculate the cost. Senator Duca had juice, federal appointments, DOJ connections, the kind of political cover that kept men like Vincent out of maximum security. Burning that bridge meant war. But looking at those two little girls, their cheap dresses and cheaper shoes, their mother's eyes in their faces, Vincent realized something that terrified him more than any rival family or FBI raid. He'd already made his choice. He just hadn't admitted it yet. Dominic leaned in close. "Boss, if this is real, if Sofia hid evidence on these kids, everyone in this room is compromised. The Romanos, the Ducas, half the federal district. They'll kill these girls before sunrise." "I know. So what's the play?" Vincent stepped down from the altar, walked toward the twins. Every gun in the room tracked him. His own security, the Duca detail, probably a few guests who carried out of habit. He stopped 3 feet away from the girls, close enough to be a target, far enough to not be a threat. "My name is Vincent Kint," he said softly. "And if what you're saying is true, if your mother was Sofia Vega, if she sent you here, then I'm going to keep you safe. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Leah's eyes narrowed. She was evaluating him, this little girl with a gun and her dead mother's secrets, making calculations that would determine whether she lived or died. Finally, slowly, she lowered her weapon. Ava followed immediately, both girls' arms dropping like their strings had been cut. Vincent knelt. Eye level now, close enough to see that their dresses were hand-stitched, that Eva's shoes were held together with glue, that both of them looked like they hadn't eaten a real meal in days. "Did anyone follow you here?" he asked. Leah shook her head. "We were careful, like Mama taught us." "Good girls." Vincent stood, turned to face his wedding party, his bride, his future father-in-law, and 300 witnesses to what would either be his redemption or his execution. "The wedding's off." Isabel gasped. Senator Duca went nuclear. "You're making the biggest mistake of your—" "Dominic," Vincent interrupted. "Get the car. We're leaving." "Where are we going?" Eva whispered. Vincent looked down at the 2 daughters he'd never known he had, the living proof of every terrible choice he'd ever made, and felt something crack open in his chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope. "Somewhere safe," he said, "and then you're going to tell me everything your mother left behind." They made it 17 steps out of the chapel before the first shot rang out. Vincent heard it before he felt it, the distinctive crack of a high-caliber rifle, the whine of a bullet passing close enough to feel the heat. He didn't think, didn't calculate. He grabbed both girls and threw himself sideways, crashing through the hedge maze that bordered the venue's east entrance. Eva screamed. Leah swore. Words an 8-year-old shouldn't know, but Sofia definitely would have taught her. Another shot punched through the decorative fountain behind them, sending marble shrapnel exploding across the courtyard. "Stay down," Vincent barked. He pulled the Glock from his ankle holster, so much for being unarmed, and fired 3 rounds blindly toward the chapel's bell tower covering fire. Enough to make the shooter reconsider their position. Dominic appeared from nowhere, running low and fast, already returning fire with the kind of precision that came from 2 tours in Afghanistan and a decade cleaning up Vincent's messes. "Rooftop, 3 o'clock, professional shooter, probably Romano family." Of course it was. Vincent had just humiliated them in front of 300 witnesses, called off a wedding that would have legitimized their operations, and chosen 2 unknown children over a political dynasty. The Romanos didn't forgive that kind of insult. They erased it. The black Mercedes screeched around the corner, driver's door already open, engine running. Vincent shoved the girls into the back seat, threw himself in after them, and Dominic hit the gas before the door was fully closed. Gunfire erupted behind them. The rear window spider-webbed but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass, one of many upgrades that had saved Vincent's life more times than he could count. The Mercedes fishtailed onto the main road, weaving through traffic at 90 miles an hour, leaving the chapel and its 300 shocked witnesses in the dust. In the back seat, Eva was sobbing. Leah held her sister tight, her face pressed into Eva's hair, but her eyes were locked on Vincent. "You said we'd be safe," she said. Not an accusation, a statement of fact. "You will be." Vincent checked the magazine. 11 rounds left. Not enough. Never enough. "But first I need to know exactly what your mother left you, everything, right now." Leah hesitated. Trust was earned, not given, and Vincent had done nothing yet to earn it except not let them get shot in the last 60 seconds. Then Eva pulled away from her sister, fumbled with the bracelet on her wrist, and twisted it. A tiny USB drive popped out, no bigger than a thumbnail. "Mama said this one has the names," Eva whispered. "All the people who hurt the children, judges, police, people in the government. She said they'd kill anyone who saw it." Vincent's blood went cold. He'd suspected Sophia had evidence. He hadn't realized she'd had everything. Leah removed her bracelet next. Another USB drive. "This one has the money trails, bank accounts, payments. Mama said it proves who bought the children and who sold them." She reached into her dress pocket and pulled out a third drive, this one disguised as a cheap plastic flower clip. "And this one is the video. From the night she died." The world tilted. "She recorded it?" Vincent asked quietly. "Everything," Leah confirmed. "She was in a motel room. She knew they were coming for her. She recorded for 2 hours, explaining everything, naming names, showing documents." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And she talked about you, about us, about what she wanted us to do if she didn't survive?" Dominic caught Vincent's eye in the rearview mirror. The message was clear. "This changes everything. This is bigger than the Romanos, bigger than the Dukas. This is federal judges, senators, maybe even—" A black SUV slammed into their rear bumper. The Mercedes lurched forward. Dominic cursed, yanked the wheel, sent them careening across 3 lanes of traffic. Horns blared. A taxi clipped their side mirror. The SUV accelerated, coming alongside them, and Vincent saw the window rolling down, saw the barrel of an assault rifle emerging. "Down!" He threw himself over the girls just as bullets shredded the passenger side, punching through door panels, shattering windows, turning the interior into a death trap. Dominic swerved hard right, onto an exit ramp, the wrong way up a one-way street. The SUV followed. So did a second one that had appeared from nowhere, and a third. "We've got company!" Dominic shouted. "Multiple vehicles, coordinated attack. This isn't just the Romanos." Vincent's mind raced. Sophia's evidence didn't just threaten one family. It threatened an entire network. Judges who'd taken bribes, senators who'd looked the other way, federal agents who'd actively participated. Everyone she'd named was now hunting the only witnesses left alive. And those witnesses were 8 years old. The Mercedes screamed through an intersection, barely missing a delivery truck. The SUVs stayed close, professional drivers who knew what they were doing. Vincent's phone erupted with calls. Blocked numbers, unknown contacts, everyone trying to reach him, trying to negotiate, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. One call came through that he recognized. He answered it. "Vincent Kint," a woman's voice said. Smooth, controlled, familiar in a way that made his spine straighten. "I'm Special Agent Sarah McLean, FBI. I've been tracking the Vega case for 18 months, and I know you have her daughters. Pull over. Surrender the children. This is your only chance to survive the next hour. Vincent almost laughed. You think I'm afraid of the FBI? You should be afraid of the 12 hit teams currently converging on your location. The FBI is the least of your problems. A pause. But I might be your only solution. Why would I trust you? Because I'm the agent Sophia was supposed to meet the night she died. Because I've spent 18 months trying to find those girls before someone else did. And because right now, Mr. Kint, I'm the only person in the entire federal government who actually wants them alive. The Mercedes hit a pothole hard enough to make Ava cry out. Vincent cradled both girls against him, feeling their hearts hammering, their small bodies shaking with terror. He'd made a lot of bad decisions in his life. Trusting an FBI agent would probably rank in the top 5. But the SUVs were closing in. Dominic was running out of road. And those 3 USB drives contained evidence that could bring down an empire, or get 2 little girls killed before anyone ever saw what was on them. Vincent made his choice. Where? He asked. Agent McLean gave him an address, an abandoned warehouse in Red Hook, the kind of place where people went to disappear, one way or another. Come alone, she said. No security, no backup, just you and the girls. That's suicide. That's trust, Mr. Kint, something you're going to have to learn if you want to keep those daughters alive. She hung up. Dominic met his eyes in the mirror. Boss? Vincent looked down at Leah and Eva, their mother's eyes staring up at him, their entire lives depending on what he decided in the next 10 seconds. He'd spent 30 years building an empire, 30 years becoming the kind of man who survived by trusting no one, believing nothing, and killing anyone who threatened his power. Now he was about to throw it all away for 2 children he'd met 20 minutes ago. Red Hook, Vincent said. Lose the tail first. Dominic lost the tail using a combination of illegal U-turns, a drainage tunnel under the Brooklyn Bridge, and what Vincent suspected was at least 3 traffic cameras that would have the NYPD hunting them by morning. By the time they pulled up to the Red Hook warehouse, the Mercedes looked like it had survived a war zone, which technically it had. The building was exactly what Vincent expected. Rusted metal, broken windows, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry and bodies wouldn't be found until spring. Every instinct he'd honed over 30 years screamed trap. He got out anyway. Stay with Dominic, he told the girls. If anything happens, anything, he gets you out. Understand? Leah grabbed his wrist. Her hand was small, cold, trembling. You're coming back, right? The question hit harder than it should have. Vincent had walked into 1,000 dangerous situations, and no one had ever asked if he was coming back. No one had cared. Yes, he said, and meant it. He walked into the warehouse alone. Agent Sarah McLean was waiting in the center of the empty space, standing in a shaft of moonlight that made her look like something out of a noir film, mid-30s, athletic build, dark hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail. She wore jeans and a leather jacket, but Vincent could see the slight bulge of a shoulder holster and the way she positioned herself with clear sight lines to all exits. Professional. Dangerous. And, he noticed with surprise, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with makeup or designer clothes, and everything to do with the fierce intelligence in her eyes. You actually came, she said. I'm impressed. Most mob bosses have better survival instincts. Most FBI agents don't meet witnesses in abandoned warehouses, Vincent countered. Where's your backup? Same place as yours. Sarah moved closer, and Vincent caught the scent of gun oil and coffee. Not perfume, but somehow more honest. I told you to come alone. I meant it. What I'm about to show you can't go through official channels. Not yet. She pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen, and turned it toward him. The video that played made Vincent's stomach drop. It was Sophia, 18 months ago, sitting in a cheap motel room, hair disheveled, eyes red from crying. But her voice was steady as she spoke directly to the camera. My name is Sofia Vega, and if you're watching this, I'm already dead. She took a shaky breath. For 3 years, I worked as a forensic accountant for the Romano family. I thought I was tracking money laundering, drug money, illegal gambling, the usual organized crime finances. She paused, wiping her eyes. I was wrong. The real money was coming from something else. Something worse. Sarah stopped the video. I need to know if you knew, Vincent. Did you know what the Romanos were really doing? I knew they were dirty, Vincent said carefully. Everyone knew that. But if you're asking if I knew about... He couldn't even say it. Couldn't give voice to the horror Sophia's expression suggested. Child trafficking, Sarah said flatly. A network that spans 12 states, involves federal judges, state senators, and at least 2 congressmen. Sophia discovered it by accident. She started seeing payments that didn't match any known Romano operations. So she dug deeper. She played more of the video. Sophia's face filled the screen. The children come from everywhere. Foster systems, immigration detention centers, runaways. They're categorized, photographed, and sold to the highest bidder. And the money? Her voice broke. The money goes through charitable foundations, political campaigns, even federal youth programs. Everyone profits. Everyone looks the other way. Vincent felt sick. He'd done terrible things. He'd hurt people, stolen from them, occasionally killed them. But this was a depth of evil he couldn't comprehend. She named names, Sarah continued. 47 people in total, including Senator Duca, 3 Romano family lieutenants, and... She looked at him steadily. 2 of your business partners. The warehouse seemed to tilt. I didn't know. I believe you. Sarah's voice softened slightly. Sophia's investigation was thorough. She documented everyone involved, everyone complicit, and everyone who looked the other way. Your name appears in her files exactly once, as someone she trusted, someone she thought might help her. I didn't help her, Vincent said bitterly. I told her I couldn't. And 3 days later she was dead, officially drowned, unofficially murdered by a professional hit team. Sarah moved closer. Close enough that Vincent could see the gold flecks in her brown eyes, the same eyes Leah and Eva had. But here's the part Sophia didn't know. She wasn't the only one investigating. I've been working this case from the inside for 2 years, deep cover building evidence, getting close to people Sophia named. How close? Something flickered across Sarah's face. Close enough that when she died, I couldn't save her. Close enough that I've had to watch children disappear and do nothing because moving too soon would blow the entire case. She looked away. Close enough that I hate myself every single day. The vulnerability in her voice surprised him. FBI agents were supposed to be cold, detached, professional. Sarah McLean was none of those things. She was fierce and broken, and fighting a war that was destroying her from the inside. Vincent recognized the look. He saw it in his mirror every morning. Why meet me here? He asked. Why not bring me in officially? Because half the people Sophia named are in federal law enforcement, judges, U.S. attorneys, FBI agents. Sarah's jaw tightened. I can't trust anyone in my own agency, but I can trust you. Why? Because Sophia did. And because those 2 little girls in your car are the only living witnesses to the biggest criminal conspiracy in U.S. history. Every person Sophia named wants them dead. And right now, you're the only thing standing between them and a bullet. Outside, Vincent heard Dominic's voice, sharp and warning. Then Eva screamed. Vincent had his gun out and was moving before conscious thought kicked in. Sarah was right behind him, her weapon drawn, both of them sprinting toward the Mercedes where 3 black vans had boxed in the car. Men in tactical gear were dragging Dominic out, his face bloody, his hands zip-tied behind his back. Leah and Eva were being pulled from the back seat, their screams cutting through the night like knives. FBI, stand down, Sarah shouted, badge held high. The tactical team ignored her. Because they were FBI. Vincent could see the insignia on their vests, the federal-issue weapons in their hands. This wasn't a hit squad. This was an official operation. and every single person Sophia had named was being protected by someone with a badge. One of the agents grabbed Laya roughly, and Vincent saw red. He didn't think, didn't calculate the odds or consider the consequences. He just moved. The first agent went down with Vincent's elbow in his throat. The second caught a knee to the solar plexus. Vincent grabbed Leah, pulled her behind him, and aimed his Glock at the team leader's head. "Let them go," Vincent said quietly, "or I start shooting federal agents, and we all go down together." The team leader smiled. It was the kind of smile that said he'd already won, that Vincent was just delaying the inevitable. "You're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options, Kint. Put down the weapon. Surrender the children. This can still end peacefully." Sarah stepped forward, her gun trained on the team leader. "Special Agent Sarah McLean, Organized Crime Division. I'm ordering you to stand down. These children are federal witnesses under my protection." "Your protection?" The team leader laughed. "Agent McLean, you've been under investigation for 3 months. Suspicion of corruption, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to aid organized crime. You're relieved of duty effective immediately." Sarah's face went white. "That's a lie." "Is it?" He gestured, and 2 agents moved toward her. "We have recordings, meetings with Vincent Kint, unauthorized contact with witnesses, falsified reports." His smile widened. "You're going to prison, Agent McLean, right alongside your boyfriend here." Vincent watched Sarah's world crumble in real time. Someone had set her up, someone powerful, someone who knew she was getting too close to the truth. And now they were both trapped. Ava was crying, Leah was shaking, Dominic was unconscious on the ground, and Vincent was holding a gun on federal agents with no backup, no leverage, and no way out. Then Leah's small voice cut through the chaos. "We have the video," she said. "The one Mama recorded, and we already uploaded it." Everyone froze. The team leader's smile vanished. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Leah pulled out her phone, a cheap burner, nothing special. "Mama taught us to always have a backup plan. The video is on a delayed upload. If we don't enter a code every 4 hours, it automatically posts to every news outlet, social media platform, and federal database in the country." She looked at Vincent, then at Sarah, then back at the team leader. "And the next code is due in 15 minutes. The 15 minutes that followed were the longest of Vincent Kint's life. The team leader, whose badge identified him as Special Agent Raymond Moss, tried negotiation first, then threats, then bribery. When none of that worked, he tried something Vincent hadn't expected: honesty. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Moss said, his weapon still trained on Vincent, but his voice strangely earnest. "That video goes public, and you're not just exposing criminals, you're burning down the entire federal justice system. 47 people, Agent McLean said. Try 400. Judges, prosecutors, police chiefs, people who've been protecting this network for 20 years. "Good," Leah said coldly. "They should burn." Moss looked at her like she was a grenade with the pin pulled. "You're 8 years old. You have no idea what happens when the system collapses. Who suffers when there's no law, no order, no protection?" "I know who suffers when there is protection," Leah shot back. "The children you people were supposed to save." Vincent felt something shift in his chest. Pride, maybe, or terror. This little girl had more courage than most of the hardened criminals he'd known. Sarah moved closer to Vincent, close enough that their shoulders touched. He could feel her tension, the way her breathing had gone shallow and controlled, preparing for violence or flight. "How long?" she whispered. 10 minutes, Leah answered, checking her phone. Moss made a gesture, and his team spread out, forming a loose perimeter. Not attacking. Not retreating. Just waiting. Like they knew something Vincent didn't. "You want to know why I'm really here?" Moss said suddenly. "Why I'm trying so hard to stop this video from going public?" "Because you're complicit," Sarah said flatly. "No." Moss holstered his weapon. Slowly, carefully, hands visible. Because my daughter was one of the children who disappeared. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sarah's gun wavered. What? Emma Moss, 12 years old, vanished from foster care 6 years ago, officially labeled a runaway. His voice cracked. I've spent 6 years investigating, tracking, following every lead, and 3 years ago, I found proof. Pictures, transaction records, evidence that someone in the FBI, someone I worked with, trusted, called a friend, had sold her to the highest bidder. Vincent's mind raced. This was either the truth or the most elaborate manipulation he'd ever witnessed. Sofia Vega found the same evidence, Moss continued. She reached out to me. We were supposed to meet the night she died. I was late. His jaw clenched. 20 minutes late. By the time I got there, she was already gone. Sarah's weapon lowered slightly. If that's true, if you've been investigating, then why am I trying to stop the video? Moss finished. Because it's not complete. Sofia's evidence names the buyers, the sellers, the facilitators, but it doesn't name the one person who controls it all, the architect, the one who built this network from nothing and has kept it hidden for 2 decades. Who? Vincent demanded. Moss looked directly at Sarah. Ask Agent McLean. She knows. Sarah's face went chalk white. Her gun hand started shaking, and Vincent saw something in her eyes that terrified him. Recognition. Guilt. And a grief so deep it threatened to swallow her whole. Sarah? Vincent said quietly. She didn't answer. Couldn't. Her entire body had gone rigid, like she was holding herself together through sheer force of will. Eva tugged on Vincent's jacket. Is she okay? No, she absolutely wasn't. Moss took a step closer, his voice gentler now. Tell him, Sarah. Tell him why you've really been chasing this case. Tell him about your son. The word hit like a bullet. Vincent turned to Sarah, saw tears streaming down her face, saw her weapon drop to her side as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. I had a little boy, she whispered. Jacob. He was 6 years old. Beautiful, smart, perfect. Her voice broke. My ex-husband had custody. He was a federal prosecutor, well-connected, respected, powerful. When Jacob disappeared from his supervised visit, everyone assumed it was a custody dispute gone wrong, that I'd taken him, hidden him. She looked at Vincent, and he saw his own pain reflected back at him. The guilt of failing someone you loved, the weight of choices that couldn't be undone. They investigated me, Sarah continued. For 6 months, while my son was out there somewhere, suffering, the FBI was building a case against me for parental kidnapping. By the time they cleared me, the trail was cold. Jacob was gone. How long ago? Vincent asked. 4 years. She wiped her eyes roughly. I became an agent to find him. Spent 2 years working my way into organized crime divisions, following money trails, looking for any connection to child trafficking. And then Sofia Vega contacted me with evidence that my ex-husband, the father of my missing child, was one of the network's biggest clients. Vincent felt the floor drop out from under everything he thought he knew. She had proof, Sarah said. Photos, financial records, video of him at an auction where children were bought and sold like livestock. Her hands were shaking now. And the person running the auction, the one coordinating everything, the architect Moss is talking about. She couldn't finish, but Moss could. It's Senator Richard Duca, he said. Your almost father-in-law Kint, the man whose daughter you were about to marry, the man who would have had access to everything you own, every secret you keep, every weakness you have. The world tilted sideways. Vincent's wedding, the alliance, the political cover, it had all been a trap. Duca hadn't wanted peace or legitimacy. He'd wanted control over Vincent's operations, his territory, his connections. And once he had it, Vincent would have been disposable. Another body in the river. Another problem solved. The USB drives, Vincent said slowly. Sofia's evidence. We'll expose Duca as the head of the network, Moss finished. Senators, Judges, federal agents, they're all his. He built this empire using political connections and federal resources, and when your video goes public, he looked at Leah, he'll know exactly where you are, and he'll send everyone he controls to make sure you never testify. 7 minutes left. Vincent's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered it anyway. Hello, Vincent. Senator Duca's voice was smooth, cultured, absolutely calm. I assume you've figured out by now that the wedding was never about my daughter. It was about control. About ensuring certain secrets stayed buried. Like the fact that you're a monster who sells children? Duca laughed. Such dramatic language. I prefer to think of myself as a businessman who identified a market need and filled it efficiently. Speaking of which, I'm willing to make you an offer. One chance to walk away from this with your life intact. I'm listening. Kill the girls. Kill Agent McLean. Kill anyone who's seen Sophia's evidence. Do that, and I'll make you the most powerful man in New York protection. Territory, political immunity, everything you've ever wanted. Vincent looked at Leah and Eva, their small faces turned up toward him, trusting him despite having every reason not to. He looked at Sarah, this broken, fierce woman who'd spent 4 years searching for her son, while the entire system worked against her. He looked at Dominic, bleeding on the ground, loyal to the end, and he made the easiest decision of his life. Go to hell, Vincent said, and hung up. Moss smiled grimly. Well, that's that then. He'll come for all of us now. Let him come, Vincent said. But first, he turned to Leah. Enter the code, upload the video. Let the whole world see what these people really are. Leah's fingers flew over her phone. 30 seconds. 20. 10. Sarah grabbed Vincent's hand, squeezed it. If we survive this, we will, Vincent said. Not because he believed it, because she needed to hear it. I need you to know that She stopped, swallowed hard, started again. I haven't felt anything real in 4 years, not since Jacob. But when I'm with you, when I see you protecting those girls... The phone chimed. Upload complete. Somewhere in the distance, sirens began to wail, not coming toward them, moving away. Chaos spreading across the city as every news outlet, every federal database, every social media platform simultaneously exploded with Sofia Vega's final testimony. The truth was out. And now the war really began. The first wave hit 90 seconds after the upload. Not federal agents this time. Not tactical teams with badges and protocols. These were contractors, mercenaries pulled from every dark corner of Duca's empire. Men who didn't ask questions, didn't care about jurisdiction, and got paid per body. Vincent counted 12 shooters converging on their position from 3 directions, maybe more in reserve. Move! He grabbed both girls, shoved them toward Sarah. Get them to the car. What about you? Sarah shouted over the erupting gunfire. I'll buy you time! It was a lie. They both knew it. But Sarah ran anyway, because saving the girls mattered more than saving him. Moss and his team opened fire, creating a corridor of covering fire that lasted maybe 15 seconds. Not enough. 3 of Moss's agents went down in the first exchange. The rest scattered, pinned behind vehicles and debris. Vincent fired until his Glock clicked empty, then grabbed a fallen agent's rifle. The weapon felt foreign in his hands, too light, too precise, nothing like the close-quarters guns he preferred, but it put bullets down range, and that was all that mattered. Dominic was on his feet somehow, blood streaming from a head wound, fighting with the kind of savage determination that came from protecting the only family he had left. He took down 2 shooters before a bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. Dom! Vincent screamed. His oldest friend, his only friend, collapsed. The Mercedes peeled out, Sarah at the wheel, the girls in the back. Vincent watched it disappear into the night and felt something tear inside his chest. He'd never see them again. He knew it with the certainty of a man who'd survived 30 years by understanding odds. This was his last stand. Then Moss was beside him, reloading with practiced efficiency. "Your friend needs a hospital." "He needs me to not die here." Vincent fired 3 rounds, dropped a shooter trying to flank them. "How many you got left?" "2 agents, maybe 3 minutes of ammunition." Moss's jaw was set, his eyes hard. "We're not walking out of this." Vincent had accepted worse odds before. He was about to say so when his phone rang again. Duca. He answered it out of pure spite. "You made the wrong choice, Vincent," the senator said. His voice was no longer smooth. It was ice and murder. "My daughter is devastated. My career is in ruins. My entire network is being exposed on national television as we speak." "Good. But you?" Duca laughed, and the sound was broken glass and madness. "You think you're a hero now? You think those girls are safe because one FBI agent is driving them to some imaginary safe house?" Vincent's blood froze. "What did you do?" "Sarah McLean's son, Jacob. Beautiful boy. Looks just like his mother, don't you think?" A pause. "He's alive, Vincent. Has been this whole time living in a very comfortable facility under my personal protection." The world stopped. "And I just sent Agent McLean a photograph with GPS coordinates and a simple message. Come alone, or he dies." Duca's voice was silk over razors. "She has 30 minutes. So you see, your heroic FBI agent is about to make a choice, her son or your daughter's, and we both know which one she'll pick." The line went dead. Vincent stood in the middle of a war zone, surrounded by bodies and gunfire, and felt true despair for the first time in his adult life. Because Duca was right, Sarah would choose her son. Any parent would. It didn't make her weak or wrong. It made her human. And it meant Leah and Eva were alone in a car with someone who was about to betray them. "I have to go," Vincent said to Moss. "You'll die before you make it 20 feet." "Then I die." Vincent grabbed a fresh magazine from a fallen agent, slammed it home. "Those girls are my daughters. I don't get to quit on them." Moss stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled, sad and knowing. "Emma would have been their age now. My little girl." He pulled out a photo from his vest pocket, creased and worn from years of handling a smiling girl with dark curls and gap-toothed grin. "If she's still out there, still alive, we'll find her," Vincent promised, "after we save mine." It was the kind of promise you made knowing you'd probably die before keeping it, but Moss nodded like it was gospel truth. "Then let's make sure you survive long enough to try." What happened next would later be described by witnesses as either the bravest or stupidest thing they'd ever seen. 2 men, 1 ex-mob boss, and 1 federal agent, charging directly into overwhelming enemy fire with nothing but determination and borrowed time. They made it exactly 40 feet before Moss took a bullet to the chest. He went down hard, and Vincent skidded to his knees beside him, trying to stop the bleeding even as bullets chewed up the pavement around them. "Go," Moss choked out, blood on his lips. "Find them, save them." "I can't leave you." "You can. You have to." Moss grabbed Vincent's collar, pulled him close. "Sophia trusted you. Her daughters trust you. Don't make them wrong." He died with his hand pressed against Vincent's chest, right over his heart, as if passing something vital from one father to another. Vincent didn't have time to grieve. Didn't have time to process. He just ran. Away from the warehouse, away from Dominic's unconscious body and Moss's cooling corpse. Away from everything he'd built and everyone he'd failed. He ran toward the only thing that mattered anymore. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Just GPS coordinates and a single line. She took the bait. "The girls are alone." "Tick-tock, Daddy." Vincent flagged down a passing car, didn't ask, just pulled the driver out and stole it, and drove like hell itself was chasing him. Because it was. And it was winning. Sarah just abandoned the girls to save her son, leaving Leah and Eva alone and hunted. Is Vincent already too late? Comment if you think he reaches them in time, and hit subscribe. Vincent found the Mercedes abandoned on a deserted pier, both front doors open, engine still running. No bodies, no blood, no girls. He stood in the rain that had started falling, cold, merciless, washing away tire tracks and footprints, and felt hope die in his chest. He'd been too late. Duca had won. The girls were gone, probably already dead or worse, and everything Vincent had sacrificed in the last 3 hours meant nothing. Then he heard it. Singing. Soft, barely audible over the rain and distant sirens. A lullaby in Spanish, the words carrying across the water from somewhere beneath the pier. Vincent dropped to his knees, looked under the dock, and saw them. Leah and Eva, huddled in the crawl space between support beams, soaking wet and shivering but alive. "Dad?" Eva whispered. It was the first time she'd called him that. The word broke something in Vincent, and rebuilt it stronger. "I'm here!" He reached for them. "I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Ever." They crawled out, and Vincent wrapped them both in his jacket, holding them so tight he was afraid he might hurt them, but unable to let go. They were alive. They were safe. They were... "Where's Sarah?" Leah asked. Vincent's jaw clenched. She had to... He couldn't finish. Couldn't tell them that Sarah had abandoned them for her own son. Couldn't destroy their trust in the one other person who'd tried to protect them. "She had to save her little boy," Eva said quietly. "She told us before she left. She was crying. She said she was sorry, but her son was in danger and she couldn't let him die." "She gave us her phone," Leah added, pulling out a device from her dress pocket. "Said to hide under the pier and wait. That help was coming." The phone buzzed in Leah's hand. A video call. Vincent answered it. Sarah's face filled the screen. Bruised, bleeding from a cut above her eye, but her expression was pure steel. "Vincent," she said, "I found Jacob. He's alive. But Duca played me. This whole thing was a trap to separate me from the girls." Behind her, Vincent could see a child, maybe 10 years old, unconscious on a medical gurney. "I'm at some kind of private medical facility. Duca's been keeping the children here, drugged and compliant until they're sold." "How many children?" Vincent asked, his voice hollow. "Dozens, maybe more." Sarah's hands were shaking. "I can't get them out alone. The facility is guarded, monitored. But Vincent, I found something security footage from the night Sophia died." She turned her phone's camera to show a monitor. The grainy video showed Sophia, alive, walking into this same facility. Not running. Not fighting. Walking in voluntarily, her hands up, her expression calm. "She made a deal," Sarah said, her voice breaking. She offered herself in exchange for information about where they were keeping the children. She recorded everything, got the location of this facility, and then... The video showed a man entering the frame. Even grainy and dark, Vincent recognized Senator Duca. He was smiling, and in his hand was a syringe. Sophia didn't fight. She let him inject her. Let him walk her to the edge of the pier visible in the background. And then... The screen went black before showing the rest. "She sacrificed herself to save them," Sarah whispered. "All of them. Every child in this facility. And she trusted that someday someone would find the evidence and finish what she started." Vincent looked down at Leah and Eva, saw their mother's strength in their faces, her courage in their eyes. "Where's the facility?" he asked. Sarah sent coordinates. "Vincent, there are at least 20 guards. Professional security. You can't... I'm not coming alone." Vincent pulled out his phone, made 3 calls to people he hadn't spoken to in years. Old associates, former rivals, men who owed him favors or respected him enough to answer when it mattered. Then he made a 4th call, to every news outlet that had just broadcast Sophia's video. "This is Vincent Kint," he said when they answered. "In 1 hour, I'm raiding a private medical facility where Senator Richard Duca is holding dozens of trafficked children. If you want the story of the century, be there with cameras, because whatever happens tonight, the whole world is going to watch." He looked at the girls. "Can you two be brave a little longer?" Leah straightened her shoulders. Ava wiped her eyes and nodded. "We're Sofia Vega's daughters," Leah said. "We're always brave." Sarah's face reappeared on the phone screen. "Vincent, when this is over, if we survive—" "We will," he said. Not because he believed it, because she needed to hear it. "I need you to know that I'm in love with you." The words tumbled out fast, like she'd been holding them back for hours and couldn't anymore. "I know it's insane. We've known each other for 3 hours. But when I saw you with those girls, when you chose them over everything else—" "I love you too," Vincent said. And meant it. 20 minutes later, a convoy of vehicles rolled toward the facility. Vincent's remaining associates, news crews with cameras, and somewhere in the distance, federal agents who'd seen Sofia's video and were finally ready to choose the right side. Vincent Kint, mob boss turned father, checked his weapon one last time. "Let's go get your mother's justice," he told his daughters. The raid happened exactly how Vincent planned. Fast, brutal, and broadcast live on every major network. News helicopters circled overhead, cameras capturing everything as Vincent's convoy smashed through the facility's front gate. His associates, men who'd committed terrible crimes but drew the line at hurting children, moved through the building with surgical precision, neutralizing guards and securing exits. Vincent went straight for the basement. That's where Sarah said the children were kept. That's where Duca would be, trying to destroy evidence and eliminate witnesses before the world came crashing down on him. Leah and Ava stayed close behind him, refusing to be left in the car despite every instinct screaming at Vincent to keep them safe. But they'd earned this. Their mother had died for this moment. They deserved to see it through. The basement door was reinforced steel. Vincent didn't bother with subtlety. He planted charges, cleared the area, and blew it open. Smoke and chaos, alarms screaming, and beyond it all, rows of hospital beds holding unconscious children, IV lines pumping sedatives into their small bodies. Sarah was there, cradling Jacob in her arms, tears streaming down her face as her son's eyes slowly opened for the first time in 4 years. "Mama?" Jacob whispered, his voice rusty from disuse. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Sarah sobbed, rocking him. "You're safe now. You're coming home." Vincent's associates began disconnecting IV lines, waking children, documenting everything with phone cameras while news crews flooded in behind them. This was being broadcast globally. Millions watching. No cover-up possible. No way to make this disappear. "Vincent!" he spun. Senator Duca stood at the far end of the basement, immaculate in his tailored suit despite the destruction around him, and in his hand, a gun pointed directly at Leah. "You've ruined everything," Duca said calmly. 20 years building this enterprise, billions in revenue. Powerful men across the globe depending on my discretion." He smiled. "But I'm a pragmatist. I'll rebuild. Start again. Different name, different location. I've done it before." "Not this time," Vincent said. "No?" Duca's finger tightened on the trigger. "Here's what happens next. I kill Sofia's daughters, tragic casualties of a violent mob raid. Then I kill you, self-defense against a known criminal. The children will be rescued by federal agents, my agents, and quietly disappear into the system again, and I'll walk out of here a hero who exposed Vincent Kint's child trafficking operation." The lie was so audacious, so perfectly constructed, that Vincent almost admired it. Almost. "You're forgetting something," Vincent said. "What's that?" "You're not the only one who planned ahead." Eva pulled out Sarah's phone, the one she'd been holding the entire time. The one that had been recording since the moment they entered the facility. "Smile for the camera, Senator," Eva said sweetly. "You're live on every news channel in America." Duca's face went white. His eyes darted to the phone, to the news crews filming everything, to the millions of viewers watching him confess to 20 years of crimes on international television. He raised his gun, and Leah shot him, not with a real gun. She was 8 years old, but with the taser Vincent had slipped her before they entered, knowing Duca would try something desperate. 50,000 volts dropped the senator like a puppet with cut strings. Federal agents, real ones this time, the few who hadn't been corrupted, swarmed in, zip-tying Duca while reading him rights he'd denied hundreds of children. Vincent knelt beside his daughters. "You okay?" "We did it," Leah whispered. "For Mama?" "For Mama," Eva echoed. Sarah appeared, Jacob clinging to her, and for a moment they all just stood there. 2 broken parents, 3 traumatized children, surrounded by the rescued and the damned. Then Sarah kissed Vincent. Right there, in front of the cameras and the chaos and the whole watching world. A kiss that tasted like tears and hope and the promise of something better than either of them deserved but both desperately needed. Jacob giggled. "Mama's kissing someone." "That's Vincent," Sarah said, smiling through tears. "He's—" She paused, looked at Vincent with question in her eyes. "Family," Vincent finished. "If you'll have us?" The next hours blurred together. Medics treating the rescued children, federal agents arresting Duca's associates, news anchors breathlessly reporting that 47 indictments had been issued, with more coming. The entire network Sophia had exposed was collapsing in real time. Dominic was alive. Barely, but alive. Moss hadn't made it, but Vincent promised his unconscious body that he'd find Emma, wherever she was. As dawn broke over the facility, Vincent stood outside with Sarah, Leah, Eva, and Jacob. 5 people who'd been strangers 12 hours ago. 5 people who'd fought through hell and somehow survived. "What happens now?" Sarah asked. "I testify," Vincent said, "against everyone. Every crime I've witnessed, every name I know, I'll probably go to prison." "We'll wait for you," Leah said firmly. "That's what families do." Vincent looked at this fierce little girl, his daughter, and felt his heart break and heal simultaneously. "Then I guess I better make sure I come back," he said. Sarah took his hand. "We'll fight the charges. You're a witness now, not a criminal. You saved dozens of children. That has to count for something. And if it doesn't?" She kissed him again, softer this time. "Then we'll visit every weekend until you're free, however long it takes." The sun rose higher, painting the sky gold and red. Somewhere in the facility, a child laughed, the first sound of joy in a place that had known only suffering. It wasn't a perfect ending. Vincent would face consequences. People had died. The girls would need years of therapy. Sarah's career was probably over. But they were alive. They were together. And for the first time in any of their lives, they had something worth fighting for. Each other. 6 months later, Vincent Kint walked out of the federal courthouse a free man. Not because he was innocent. He'd confessed to 30 years of crimes in excruciating detail. But because the prosecution decided that his testimony against Senator Duca's network, his role in rescuing 43 children, and his cooperation with ongoing investigations made him more valuable as a witness than a prisoner. House arrest, 5 years probation, community service, a lifetime ban from organized crime. Vincent had never received a better deal in his life. Leah and Eva were waiting on the courthouse steps, wearing matching yellow dresses that Sarah had bought them. Real dresses this time, not the threadbare hand-me-downs they'd worn the night they crashed his wedding. They looked healthy, happy, healing. "Dad!" Eva launched herself at him, and Vincent caught her, spinning her around like he'd seen other fathers do in parks. It still felt foreign, this tenderness, this joy. But he was learning. Leah was more reserved, but her smile was genuine. "Sarah's making dinner. She said if you're late, she's feeding your portion to Dominic." Vincent laughed. Dominic had recovered from his injuries and now worked as head of security for Sarah's new nonprofit, an organization dedicated to finding missing children and prosecuting traffickers. He took the job seriously, probably because he'd come within inches of dying for children he'd never met. Some things changed you. That night had changed all of them. The drive home, what a strange word for a former mob boss, took them through Brooklyn, past the neighborhood where Vincent had grown up, where he'd made his first deal, committed his first crime. It felt like looking at someone else's life. Sarah was waiting in the doorway of the brownstone they'd bought together, Jacob beside her. The boy had gained 20 pounds, started therapy, and recently told his mother he wanted to be an FBI agent when he grew up. Sarah had cried for an hour. "Welcome home," Sarah said, and kissed Vincent like he'd been gone for years instead of hours. "Gross," Jacob announced. "They're kissing again." "You'll understand when you're older," Leah said sagely, sounding far too much like her mother. Dinner was chaotic. 5 people talking over each other, Dominic telling terrible jokes, Jacob showing off his science project, the twins arguing about homework, normal. Beautifully, impossibly normal. After the kids went to bed, Vincent and Sarah sat on the back porch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "I got a call today," Sarah said quietly, "from the FBI field office in Montana." Vincent's heart skipped. "Emma Moss?" Sarah nodded. "They found her, alive, living under an assumed name with a family who purchased her 6 years ago." Her voice hardened. "The family's been arrested. Emma's in protective custody, and she wants to meet the man who saved her father's life." Vincent thought of Agent Raymond Moss, bleeding out on that warehouse floor, trusting a criminal to keep a promise. "When?" "Next month. I thought we could all go. Show Emma that there's still good in the world, that her father's sacrifice meant something." "He was a good man," Vincent said softly. "Better than me." "He was a good man who made mistakes," Sarah corrected. "Just like you. The difference is, you're trying to do better. That's all any of us can do." She was right. Vincent had spent 30 years building an empire on blood and fear. Now he was spending his second chance building something different, a family, a future, a life where children were protected instead of exploited. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't powerful, but it was real. "I love you," Vincent said. He'd been saying it more often lately, trying to make up for 30 years of never saying it at all. "I love you too," Sarah replied. "Even though you still can't cook, and you're terrible at helping with homework, and you occasionally have nightmares about the old days." "I'm working on it." "I know," she kissed him. "That's why I'm marrying you." The ring had been his mother's, the only thing from his old life worth keeping. He'd proposed 3 months ago, kneeling in the kitchen while Leah coached him on what to say, and Eva recorded it on her phone. The video had 17 views, all from family. The wedding was planned for next spring. Small, intimate, no senators, no mob bosses, just people they loved and trusted. Dominic was best man. The twins were flower girls. Jacob was ring bearer. And this time, Vincent would actually say his vows and mean every word. A light flickered on upstairs. Eva's bedroom. Vincent saw her silhouette in the window, probably reading past bedtime again. She was so much like Sophia. Brilliant, stubborn, determined to change the world through sheer force of will. Leah's light came on next. She was probably working on her investigation board, a cork board covered with news clippings about the Duca case, photos of recovered children, maps tracking the prosecutions. She wanted to be a federal prosecutor when she grew up. Sarah was already teaching her about case law. 2 little girls who'd lost their mother but found a family. A father who'd lost his way but found redemption. A woman who'd lost her son but found love. A boy who'd lost years but found hope. Imperfect people building an imperfect life. But it was theirs, and it was worth fighting for. "You know what I realized today?" Vincent said. 6 months ago, I was standing at an altar about to marry someone I didn't love, surrounded by people I didn't trust, living a life that meant nothing. And now? Now I have everything. He pulled Sarah closer. You, the kids, a chance to make things right. I used to think power was everything. Turned out love was what I needed all along. Sarah smiled against his shoulder. That's the cheesiest thing you've ever said. I know. Leah's been making me watch romantic comedies. They sat in comfortable silence, watching lights flicker across the Brooklyn skyline, listening to the sounds of children settling into sleep, feeling the weight of the past lift just a little more. Tomorrow, Vincent would testify again. Sarah would run her nonprofit. The kids would go to school. Dominic would make terrible jokes. Life would continue, messy and complicated and beautiful. But tonight, they were home. They were safe. They were loved. And for a man who'd spent 30 years in darkness, that was more than enough light to live by. Drop your favorite moment in the comments below. Was it the wedding crash, the warehouse showdown, or the final family reunion? And if this story moved you, hit that subscribe button because there are so many more incredible stories coming your way.